Hello and welcome to this week's installation of our YouTube channel. We are working our way through the 32 sword form. We are on movement number 14. We are doing Wild Horse Jumps Over the Creek. This is also referred to as Wild Horse Leaps the stream, Wild Mustang crosses the ravine. I'm trying to think, there's a step jab, but it's mostly to give you the indication of a wild horse jumping over something. And you'll see that within the actual movement because there is a noticeable step and a jump to try and get over anything. It's one of the more difficult movements if you don't think in terms of what you're doing, but it's actually one of the prettier movements too, so you'll kind of see this as you go through and you understand what's going on. But this is Wild Horse Jumps Over the Stream. Try that from a little further back. Demonstration. One more time. So let's talk about the detailed instruction for this movement. We've ended here with Tigress lifts her head. And the movement here is to start to thrust forward, but the opponent is leaving and you need to follow him. So you're galloping forward. So you're stepping forward to strike, but then he moves. So you need to step across, bring the sword back, turn it over, step forward and thrust to reach him. So if you think in terms of here, we come from Tigress lifts her head, we step forward and jab out, keep our balance, realize he's leaving, so now we need to step forward, close that ground, and thrust forward. So bring that sword up and turn it over. Let's try that one more time, just with a little bit better distance. Here, step, step, thrust. Important points for this one. With the sword, you have it horizontal. When you lean forward here, then as you step, you need to turn it, come down, and then twist it back up again. So it comes back, turns over, comes up, and thrusts. So you get this spiraling motion, just like we had with Green Dragon. So I like to think of this in terms of, as the sword comes back, it's as if you're pushing, say, like a boogie board in the water. If you push a boogie board in the water and then lift the tip and let go, it'll thrust forward and go through. Now you're turning the sword over, but you get the kind of the idea of this thrusting up, power coming up through the leg, all the way through with the thrust. And so that's what you're shooting for here. So from here, come back a little bit more so you can see this. Lift, thrust. Oh no, he's leaving, so I'm going to step forward and catch him as part of this. Here, lifts up and blocks out of the way, the same movement, lift. Very much like Fair Lady in the thrust, but with the sword in this case. So one more time from here. Common mistakes we see with this one, because it is a little bit more difficult to control your balance with this one, we see people hurrying through this particular movement. So when you're ending up here, as long as you're in control and you're good and rooted with your foot and you lift up here, you're fine here. But there's a movement here where you're leaning forward. You need to be in control. So if you lean too far, you're off balance. If you don't lean enough, you're not really leaning, you're just kind of standing there. So there is a lean movement here, and then you realize you need to catch some ground. So you bring the other foot up. This becomes the rear foot in your mountain climbing stance. So think about it from here. Lean, bring this foot up. It's going to turn out slightly, come back up through, and thrust through. So common mistakes is you're walking too much in a line. You lift the foot up, line, 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 you're off balance. So you don't get the feeling of, well, let's do it from the front here so you get a little bit better perspective. So from here, what we don't want to see is line, line, line with my feet, because then I'm off balance. So you need to think in terms of, what am I doing? I'm lifting my foot up, I'm setting it forward, I'm balanced, a little bit of distance between me, I'm leaning forward, and then as this foot comes up, it can't come across, it needs to come out and follow through with the strike, ending up in a good mountain climbing stance. So that's one movement. Forgetting to block here, right? As this movement comes back through here, your hand naturally is going to want to come up through to thrust, but you're moving and leaning at the same time. So sometimes students will forget here as they're coming through here, oh yeah, bring that hand up and just lift it up there. Remember what you're doing. You're moving something out of the way to thrust so the power can drive up through. So this hand has got to complete the circuit and go through and do this. And then the final mistake we see with this one is not really thrusting with the blade. You're not sticking it out there, you're thrusting. So you're bringing it back through, coming up, and driving into. You have to thrust the blade forward. Thrust. Don't do it so much that you're off balance. Because this is a multi-part movement, sometimes you'll see this, where somebody comes through and is off balance. They're so intent of getting that sword forward that they lose their balance. So slow and stay with this movement. It's here, here, here. You have to stop with the blade. It's pointing forward, the camera's on the other side, pointing forward with this as part of the movement, and that's really what you're striving for. But don't go so fast that you're off balance. It is complicated. It's lean and then step forward and thrust, but the movement itself is very natural as you go through that. You just have to be in control so that you're not losing track of what you're doing. So the application of this we've talked about. We've blocked up here. We're about to reach forward to strike, but the opponent is withdrawing away from us. So now we've got to get on our horse, hence, you know, the analogy here with this. We've come from here, we're going to stab, he's moving, we need to step forward, block something out of the way, and reach forward to stab. So this is a going after somebody type movement here. We've blocked, we step forward to strike, but he's not having any of that, he's withdrawing back, so now we need to follow him and complete the cut, or the thrust in this case, as part of that. So the before and after movement here then, we are going to start here with Tigress lifts her head, step forward, come through and thrust, and then from this movement we're going to do big or little dipper and come through with the cut on the movement. So this is what it looks like from the normal view. We'll start from here, Tigress. Okay, follow along with me as we do this particular movement. This is one you definitely want to practice a few times so that you get comfortable with the movement because of the angles that you're trying to do with this. So here,